I've searched far and wide in hopes of one day finding you, my old brothers. And here you are, in the Assassin's Den.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Assassin's Den podcast. Thank you all for being patient throughout this hiatus that we took over the last few months. But we're back. Escoblades has the episode off, but today I'm joined by senior community developer on Assassin's Creed, Gabe Graziani. You be Gabe. Hello, Gabe.
Hello.
And very excited today to talk to Richard Farrese, who previously wrote for Assassin's Creed Project Legacy, I believe, as well as Liberation. And most recently, he was the lead writer for Assassin's Creed Rogue, which is what we are going to be talking about today. So hello, Richard.
Hi.
Great. So just want to note there will be full spoilers, of course, for all of Assassin's Creed Rogue. And also, when I solicited questions, I solicited community questions, which we'll be asking throughout the show. I forgot to mention that Richard is the lead writer, but he did not write the modern day, which was written by James Nadiger, pretty much. And so we're kind of not asking a lot of the questions you guys asked about the modern day, about like, oh, how did you come up with Otto Berg's, like, how do you develop Otto Berg's character and all this stuff? Like, sorry, I forgot to mention that. So, you can bug James on Twitter if you want. I'm sure he'll be thrilled.
If you guys want, we can actually talk about present day. There's like I work with James pretty closely on that, and I'm as part of the brand team, I'm involved with everything to do with present day anyway. And I've continued to work with James on Syndicate as well, because James also wrote most of the present day for Syndicate.
Yes, that is very true. Okay, yeah, well, maybe I didn't put any of these questions in the doc, but I can look them up real quick, and we can maybe slip some of those in later then.
Well, we'll see. Sure. We'll see if we have time.
Yeah, we'll see if we have time, too. Okay, yes, that's true. So, also, just a note, so a couple of questions before we get into the Rogue stuff. I'm a little curious about your background on some of your role in the Assassin's Creed franchise a little bit. While I have you here, I know Liberation was written by both you and Jill Murray primarily. I've always kind of wondered, was one of you the lead writer? Was there like a lead writer on that, or how was that split up?
I was involved on Liberation. A few months before I got involved into the game, a few months before Jill. I've pretty much designed, I guess, something like 80% of the story before I hired Jill. And we had started the writing process, but we really wrote the script. We started, I guess, the heavy writing was pretty much done as soon as she came on board. And we were, for like the last, I guess, 20-25% of the game, we sort of pushed ideas back and forth on how we should finish it, how we should again, working with the mission designers and the creative director in Sofia, of course, all the time, because this was also a game developed by Sofia, yes, with the narrative team in Montreal, just like Rogue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is, in a lot of ways, it's kind of a very similar setup to the Liberation team, I guess. And also, I was curious, I was on, I think, the AC Initiates Network podcast that it came up that you are also, like, you have this title of lead writer of the entire brand. Is that right? Like, is that still the case? And if I was wondering if so, if you could explain a little bit more about that, if it's kind of similar to what Corey used to do, like, AC 1 to 3-ish, or how that all fits.
Yeah, it is a bit, it's a bit complicated, because we basically, how it works on AC is that we have a brand team, and the brand team is responsible for basically like overseeing like all projects. That doesn't mean that we get involved deeply into the narrative of every project, especially when it's for a game and we have like good people in place, but we do work with them to make sure that everything fits with the long-term plans of the franchise. Mainly, it also means that I'm involved on everything to do with publishing. So if we're talking about comic book scripts, novels, and like minor, I don't want to say minor games, but non-AAA titles,
Sure.
That means that I'll be involved. I'll read the scripts. More often than not, I will work with the writers to make sure, like, to design the story, to make sure that everything fits within the lore, to make sure that what they develop is canon, because this is something it gets complicated because there's so many things going on in the
Yeah.
franchise, but it's also very exciting to be working on that. And my main goal is to make sure that I'm like the narrative police, I guess. But part of my role is also to make sure that we have like long-term plans and it fits with everything, especially with the movie coming up in 2016. There's like comic books that have been announced. There's Chronicles that is an ongoing thing. Like there are different titles coming up. Some of them I can't talk about right now, but it's all very exciting, and I'm actually super excited about some of them because I think the fans are going to be thrilled.
Awesome, great. Okay, thanks for clearing that up a little bit. So it feels like the writing structure of like the Assassin's Creed team is always in a little bit of flux every time we check in every year or two. So it's good to
the thing is it changes a little from project to project. Like on some project, there's a clear difference between there will be like, let's say, one writer assigned to just the main narrative, and other writers will split up the work with everything else that needs to be done. On some projects, like on Rogue, like I was involved in the narrative design because this was like, it was a bit like my baby from the get-go, because we can talk about this some more later. But so I designed the story, but when we put the team in place, like James was, the one who came up with. We talked about present day, and we came up with ideas how to develop the present day. But he had to write everything based on like the MVDs that we had worked on. But he was like the main writer for that. And on the main path, I worked with Susan Patrick to make sure that we could first of all deliver on time. But I'm also the kind of writer who likes to be challenged, and like working with someone, you can talk about the story and about character and how to develop them. You can, I guess, throw ideas around as you do this. And so I like to have at least one people with whom I can do that when I write.
Great, awesome. So that ties in nicely to our first question here. This is from Assassin's Den 4. And you've talked a little bit about this, but was the story of Rogue already in your mind before development started? Or did you, in an excellent way, mind you, come up with the story in the short period of development?
We came up with the story just before we started developing the game. Basically, we had the mandate to create a game for the PS3 and Xbox 360. And we knew that game would be coming out at the same time as Unity. When we started talking about like different settings, time periods, we had to make sure that we could reuse at least some of the assets that we already had. Of course, building on them and expanding. So that was, I guess, this sort of gave us like, I guess, ideas. At least basic ideas for a setting, but then we had to think about stories, and of course, like we've been wanted to tell a Templar story for a while. We knew the fans were asking for that, so it was actually something that sort of came up really, really early. As soon as I started to talking about this with the Julien Cuny, who was back then head of content. And then we started almost right away, an exchange with Bulgaria, with Spas in particular, who was one of the creative directors. And we immediately knew that we would tell a Templar story, and that we would use the 7 Years' Wars as a backdrop. This was like very, very early on. Just before we actually gave the official mandate to Sofia to start developing the game.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, actually. I mean, because there's so much. I don't know. Like, I feel like there's so much opacity around how the storylines of games end up being what players finally play, right? Like, I mean, I feel like there's input from so many sides. Like, we have writers of games who may or may not lay out the original like framework for the storyline. I think in most cases they you guys do, but and then there's the difference. But at some point, you have to have creative director and game designers come in and like make actual missions and apply the ideas of what the events are supposed to be in sequence and match up missions to go with them and stuff like that. And then there's also the script, right? Like that comes from like dialogue and actions that characters in the story are supposed to do.
Exactly.
And it's like that process seems to me like in the number of ways I've seen it play out so many different ways in so many different varieties. It seems like there's always sort of a dynamism and like a fluidity to how those elements finally settle in terms of who's responsible for what and who contributes to what and who has I mean, you mentioned mandate a couple of times, which I think is probably sort of a foreign concept to players in terms of, okay, so we have to make a game and it has to do these things because these are the design constraints that we have, which I think is also probably kind of a foreign concept to players, right?
Like this budget, this time period, and it's like, okay, well, we have to at least reuse some assets and like set it in this time period, probably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Gabe has a good point. It is complicated and it's different from project to project. The mandate is different too. The time that we have to develop a game is always different. And even the team, like the structure of the teams, like they're always very different from one project to the next. Ideally, we always have at least one writer involved, working with the creative director, the lead mission designer, the world director, and this forms basically like a core team, and we start basically as the weeks and months go by, we just hash out everything like story, game design, and it sort of all come together because we have to, as you can't just write a story like a video game. If you read a video game script, it's pretty similar to any movie script or TV script, but there is a lot of moments where there are a lot of moments in there where you actually give control to the player, and everything is pretty much opened. So we can't just write in our little corner of the world and just send, submit the script to the team. We have to make sure that what we do fits perfectly with what mission design wants to develop, right? Like we need to make sure that everything fits together. So this is why I guess it's a complicated process, and it's really hard to explain unless you've sort of, to anyone who hasn't done it before. I guess it's not magic. It's not, difficult. It's just like it's something you have to take time. You have to take the time to do it. You have to talk to a lot of people. You have to make sure that everyone knows what you're trying to accomplish in terms of storytelling, in terms of mission design. And so yes, I imagine like for people who just see the final result, it's pretty tough to imagine, all the different things that I guess could have made it into the game that didn't, the different ideas and why we decided to go this way instead of that way. But I guess it's part of the fun of doing this too. Sorry if my answers are a little long right now. I just realized that these questions are so tough to answer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no worries at all.
Let's switch gears to an easier one. So Dark Horse KC asks, what was the inspiration for Shay's character? way easier.
Yeah, right. Again, it's not that easy to answer, but back in the days of AC3, when Corey was developing the main story for AC3 for Haytham and Connor, they the team wanted to show what had happened to Achilles before Connor, went to him. And part of that plan was to show the Templars destroying the Brotherhood at that time. So this was something that's never been really clear because it's never been in the game, but it was part of the, like, there were hints of that in the database, and some of the fans like picked up on this, and some people were wondering, like, why is Achilles such a broken man when we meet him? So I guess a good part of Shay's story and Shay's character sort of came from that. Once we knew we wanted to tell a Templar story, we decided to make Shay sort of a protege of Haytham, because we did want to. We couldn't use Haytham, but we wanted very much to have him involved. So from the beginning, we decided to make him like a young assassin that would eventually turn against the Brotherhood, join the Templars, and we really needed to give him like very, very good reasons to do that, and to start really not only doubting the Brotherhood, but for someone to turn his back on his mentor and sort of become an assassin hunter. Like, we needed very strong narrative reasons.
Like Shay slaughtering innocents.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess we can spoil the game because it's been out for a while, but of course.
Oh yeah, I also give a spoiler warning. So
okay,
we're all good.
perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Full spoilers.
So yes, of course, like we really needed to have a traumatic event. So I guess a lot of the inspiration for the early concepts of Shay came from that single idea of explaining what happened to the Brotherhood in the colonies before Connor met Achilles in AC3. So this would be like covering the years, sort of between Haytham coming to America, and when Connor was a grown man, and you started the game, playing him.
We have a question here from Cermic Sarcasm who asks, were there any plot points during development that were changed or completely removed from the original script of the game?
There were so many, you have no idea. One of the things we had to change was very early on was we had to rewrite the very beginning of the game, because there was an environment that was actually cut because of production issues, and the time that we had, like, we just couldn't make it, and we were planning to have 2 sequences of the game there, including the opening sequence, and then you would return as a Templar again to face the Brotherhood, the assassins that were in that part of the world. So this was the biggest thing we had to change. We were lucky because some of the major beats of the story we didn't have to, like, except from the very beginning, of course. But some of the major beats we actually, I guess, settled on them really early on. And the creative directors that we worked with in Sofia, Spas and Mishu, were really, really aware that these were important. Like, they understood what type of story we wanted to tell, and I basically talked to them like almost every day throughout the production. We had daily calls, so they understood like sort of these turning points in the stories were like the major moments that we couldn't change. So any change that we made, we sort of made them around that, and that was fortunate because we sort of ended up with at least the most important story elements still in the game.
Can you give more details on what the environment was like and why it was difficult to do in the allotted time?
I'm actually not sure if I can say it.
Okay, that's fine.
I can talk about it, and I can let you know if it's okay to use it, I guess.
Oh, sure. Like post.
Yeah, I can
like
ask,
tomorrow or something.
I can ask tomorrow if it's okay.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So just a quick note from Loomer from the future, that Richard got back to me, and unfortunately he was not allowed to talk about the specifics of what was cut out. So sorry about that. Moving on. So actually, I want to talk a little bit more about Haytham for a minute. All the fangirls go wee. So I was actually, I'm actually a little curious. Earlier, you were talking about how when you're developing the story for Rogue, you mentioned that you couldn't use Haytham as the character, and so I was wondering if you could elaborate on that a little bit. Like, was it because his story was already kind of laid out in the Forsaken novel, or just like was that a mandate that you couldn't use him, or what was?
No, it wasn't a mandate at all. It was basically it was Forsaken. Because in Forsaken, it's clear that he, after the events, you know when you start playing the game in AC3, when you start playing, you play Haytham for a while, and then you sort of get to sort of set up the order, or at least reorganize the order into a more structured organization in the colonies. And then Forsaken starts, and basically Haytham leaves America and comes back like in 57 or 58. So there is like a big gap there that we couldn't touch unless we cheated, and unless we made Forsaken non-canon, and this is not something we wanted to do because again, and it's not just because of my role on the AC brand team. Of course, I'm sort of obsessed with that, but we have to be respectful of what's been done before. Sometimes we do have to cheat. We do have to. I don't like the word cheat, but we do have to sometimes try to explain things to make sure that things make sense. In this case, we just decided we're not going to use him as the main character. Instead, he's going to be like almost a second mentor to Shay. And in the end, I think it turned out well because we got to introduce Monroe, not to mention Gist, who I really love. but Monroe is such an important character for Shay. I guess you all love Gist, right?
Yeah. All right. So here's
Gist is a fan favorite for sure.
You just he's amazing once you stop taking him seriously, I think. Yeah. And I'm curious if that was like I'm assuming he's supposed to be kind of played kind of like a little bit larger than life character with like his. I guess it's mostly maybe not necessarily in the lines, but in the performance. And I was wondering actually if that's intentional or if that's just how it turned out.
No, that's intentional. We
good.
We weren't sure at the beginning. We wanted to have, especially once Shay became a Templar, we wanted to have some sort of, I guess, I don't want to say comical, but like a lighter character, I guess.
Yeah.
And since you spend a lot of time with him on the ship, we sort of wanted him to be. We sort of decided like this would be the character. And honestly, like we weren't sure exactly how we would push this idea, but once we recorded the FPP and hired the actor for that role, we hired an actor that I had worked with before. He actually. On Rogue, he also did some voice directing as well. This is Richard M. Dumont. He's an amazing guy, And when we started working with him, basically from the FPP, we realized like he almost like he breathed life into this character because once we heard him deliver those lines, we loved them so much that we sort of played on that. And every time we were in the studio with him, whether it was mocap or voice recording, we would just go through the lines with him. And sometimes he would twist some of the lines, like just so they would feel more natural. So he sort of became, I guess, a little grander than life. Like he's we might have pushed it a little too much. I'm not sure. But our instinct when we were working with him was like, yes, this is it. This is exactly the character that we want. Just because he was, in terms of performance, it was just amazing. So
yeah,
I'm sure not everyone loves this character because of that.
yeah. I think it's mixed, and it's like initially I was like, what is with this guy? Why is he being so ridiculous? Like it's like we're going on another adventure, Shay, my boy. Like it's just like because how is nobody talks like that? But then like once I embraced it, I just loved it, and I don't know. It's not the first time you guys have made historical figures sound ridiculous, like Paul Revere. So I kind of see him almost as like I almost see him kind of like as an like in a less annoying Paul Revere, a little bit grander, and like kind of keeping that tradition type thing. But yeah, okay, sorry, I got a little sidetracked there, but oh man, I just like I just had a little trouble figuring out if the actor was playing it straight initially, and then I was like, oh no, he's not. He's just going for it. All right, I'm on board. Let's do this. Okay. Anyway, sorry to pull it back around to Haytham, which is the original part of this. I was actually curious as I played the game, and you heard kind of murmurings of the Grand Master is going to be here and all this stuff, and then like the first time you see Haytham, it's like you don't even see him right away. You just hear his voice, and it's all like in the shadows, and he steps out, and it feels like it's this big moment that would have been awesome like as a surprise, but obviously the trailers and marketing and all the interviews are all like, hey, Haytham's back, everyone, you love Haytham, right? Come buy this game. Like, and I was a little curious if that was written to be a surprise or if that was ever thought of, or if it just feels that way, because it really felt like it was meant to be a surprise.
No, for us it was of course a surprise. Like we wouldn't have, I guess, revealed that Haytham was in the game. But of course, like it would have been impossible not to say it because fans love him so much. So it's and again, it sort of makes a nice trailer if you see that scene. It's just, of course, it's. But again, I don't watch trailers for that very reason. Like I don't want to see anything spoiled, and they usually do, like whether it's for a movie or a game. If you're interested in stories, and I guess I guess this will ruin it for you. Not every trailer will do that, but of course this was a big reveal in the game because again, Haytham is such an important character in the franchise. I guess I'm totally fine with the idea that they used him, because I totally get why they would use him.
Yeah. I understand it too. I almost see it as like a casualty of the nature of the game, unfortunately, because it's like when it's meant, it's not like the star of AC game of that year, right? Like Unity's the big game coming out this year, and it's like, oh well, this is very similar to AC3 and AC4, like gameplay wise. It's like, what else can we use to bring people back like into this world? And it's like, well, people love Haytham. But drop the H-bomb. Let's just bring him in.
The H-bomb, yes, I like that.
Sales will go through the roof.
What's funny too is in that same way we have marketing plans that we have to cut things from, or things don't work out. Because I mean, I remember when we were talking with the PR team and things before PAX that year, we were super excited to make it all about Rogue, and the best way to make that happen was going to be to show that specific scene where Shay meets Haytham for the first time, and you do just see his voice, you do just hear his voice, and then you see Haytham, like it's a big reveal. With the idea that we were super excited about, was to have a panel where we show that cinematic for the first time, and then boom, look, there's Adrian, and he comes out on stage, and we do a Q&A about Rogue with Adrian and everybody.
My God.
Yeah, no, it was supposed to be really awesome, and then it didn't happen.
That would have been amazing, and
Yeah,
Adrian would have loved it too.
I know,
Yeah, right?
we were.
Like, you guys need to shop Adrian around a little more.
We need to shop to be.
Everyone.
Full disclosure: all of our actors are phenomenal, and we need to have them like on more podcasts, on more live streams, on more. We need to be more involved with them.
I totally agree.
They're really phenomenal.
Yeah. Oh, that would have been so awesome. Though, why do all the cool things get killed at Ubisoft?
Well, so
no,
I will say
not all the cool things, but it seems
it wasn't killed. This is not like, because see, sometimes it's not just like oh we don't have enough money, or oh we don't have enough time. Sometimes it's just it's the stars don't align, right? Like either the talent doesn't have room in their schedule for that sort of thing, and I think specifically that year there were just scheduling conflicts that couldn't be avoided. So yeah, that and it was heartbreaking. But
okay, all right. Yeah. Well, I guess my mind just immediately goes to that because I'm a little jaded from some of these other. It's just like, whoa, we got the wrong voice for Ezio. We don't have time to fix that. Whatever, like, fucking let it go. I
hasten to add that these are imagined scenarios in Uber's head.
Okay, this is how I see it in my head.
I know.
Like, it seems like I don't know. Yeah. Okay, never mind. We won't go down this
without
rabbit
a
hole.
legitimate story to the contrary. You're left to imagine a scenario, which I understand is fine, but
it's true. Bureaucratic forces. I just feel like there's a boardroom somewhere that's just like, does it make us money? No, then we're not going to do it. Like in the shadows. No, anyway, sorry.
Seriously, it's more complicated than that. I mean, I know it's easy to simplify and say, well, they didn't want to, put down the money but these, like creating a game especially it's so complicated. There are hundreds of people involved. It's even complicated just to market it because you're in competition with other games from the company as well. So you have to be careful on how you do it.
And in this case, in the other games from the same franchise.
That was a special case. On
Liberation,
we didn't have that problem because it was for the PS Vita, so it wasn't quite the same market. But for Rogue, it was kind of almost competition.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have another question from Jared Troutman, who asks, Shay becomes a sort of right-hand man to Haytham, but why are we just now hearing about him in Rogue? There was no mention of him before, not in AC3 or in the Forsaken novel.
Okay.
This is the tough one, the tough questions.
Well, the easy answer is that we didn't need to talk about him before, because we never introduced any of the assassins from Achilles' Brotherhood either in AC3 because we actually never saw them. This was all like part of the background. It was part of the lore. Now, of course, in terms of when you look at when the game came out and when we decided to create this story and this character, the real answer is that he didn't exist. Like, we created him for Rogue specifically. We just made sure that everything we had before that sort of fit with within the story. Now, to that point, Jared, I just want to mention one thing, is that in Forsaken, Shay still hadn't met Rogue. I think I'm
a lot of terms to throw around.
Now. Yeah. So yeah, when you look at the events of AC3 and Forsaken, Haytham's first visit in the colonies, and then the events of Forsaken, this was actually before he met Shay. So there's actually no reason why we would have mentioned him, even if the character would have existed back then. We could have introduced him or mention him in AC3 once you start playing as Connor. But then, as you see at the end of Rogue, he's not like Shay has left the colonies by the time Connor's a grown man. So there's sort of no point. So we really made sure that these facts were correct before we introduced a new character. And it's the same thing for all the assassins working with Achilles. These characters did not exist, but they did not exist simply because we never hunted, we never saw them in AC3.
Yeah. Well, I think Forsaken is a fairly comprehensive, chronicle of Haytham's life. I don't feel like there's a lot of gaps in there, but I mean, yeah, the fundamental issue here is that, Shay was written after all these other things came out, and so now the best you can do is make sure it doesn't contradict anything.
Exactly. But you're right. I was thinking about the events of Chronicles before he returns to America, but the book covers more than that. So yes, you're right.
Okay, yeah, it actually ends up merging with the events of AC3, both the part where he plays Haytham and then later as well. But yeah, it's like one of those things I think where people are just gonna have to be like, well, it was a glitch in the Animus, like how those sequences were missing in AC2 initially. It's just like, but actually, what's fun is as long as you don't contradict it, this is totally fine, obviously. But what I like about a situation like this is I actually saw, I think it was on Tumblr, and I don't know if you have seen this, maybe I'll send it to you afterwards if you haven't, but basically a fan kind of came up with a canon reason why there was no mention of Shay and Forsaken, and it's like this it's like a comic really well drawn and written where it's both Shay and Haytham, and Shay basically erases himself from Haytham's journals, rips out the pages and has a reason for it that I don't fully remember because I saw this 6 months ago or something, but it leaves the door open for you to kind of imagine reasons like that. Why he might not be in something like that. I'll send it. I guess both of you haven't seen it, it sounds like, so I'll send it to you afterwards. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I would love to see that. I would love to see that. Well, for us, the way, especially the way Rogue ends, we always imagined that Shay would become this sort of, assassin hunter. He's sort of working alone from that moment on. He's not necessarily, working with other Templars as Templars tend to do. So I guess we could have been more explicit at the very end, saying, you're going on this mission. It's a secret mission. But for us, it was sort of obvious that it was. So maybe that's why Haytham never mentions him, I guess. That's good work too. but I would love to see that comic. Sometimes I'm totally blown away when I see things or I read what the fans think and what the fans would have done, and if they were involved with the franchise, and some of them are so talented, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll try to find it, and it might have a little trouble looking up, but if not, somebody else in the community, once they hear the podcast, I'm sure can point us all towards it, and I'll forward it to you guys.
Perfect.
Cool.
So just another quick note from Future Loomer here. The comic is from user Sunset Again, and you can find it in the video description. I highly recommend checking it out.
So the next question, I think we might have covered it a little bit already, but I'll go ahead and ask it anyway. From McCrack Kenway, who asked...
From Animus Island.
Oh,
podcast.
The Animus Island podcast?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, he's one of the guys on there, yeah.
Right on. So, compared to other AC games, Rogue Story is quite short. Did you feel hampered by the length? How do you feel the story might be different? Maybe a character would get more play if it was longer. And for that matter, do you know why it was shorter?
Wow. The main pad is a bit shorter. Part of the reason is the time that we had in terms of production. Writing a story, adding bits of story, is not the most complicated thing to do in a video game. because it takes less time to do that than to produce missions and sequences. So I guess part of the reason is the time we had to develop the story. Some of the scenes that we wanted to have, some of the missions that we wanted to have originally, also we had to cut. One of the reasons for that, again, was time. We had to work pretty quickly. To give you an example, you were asking earlier what had been cut from the game or what never made it. Originally, we wanted to have Shay work, at least on one or two missions with every assassin from the Brotherhood.
Not just like these little tiny training sequences. Instead.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Like we wanted to have full missions with these characters, just to develop their relationship a little more, and in terms of gameplay, what we wanted to show was sort of to foreshadow like what these people do, like because each of them were experts in a different field, and we really wanted to show that to the player. And so once you became a Templar, the idea was that you would almost be afraid of them even more because you would have seen them in action before. Again, this was a big challenge because we like in terms of just programming, it's really tough to have like NPCs in the game. Like it takes time to do. So we had to make this portion briefer, and also if we would have made the assassin part too long, then it would have felt more like an Assassin's Creed game, where the Templar bit would be like maybe 1/3 or 1/4 of the game, and we really wanted to have that switch, I guess, quickly enough in the story.
Yeah, it was. I think I mentioned this in the podcast with Steven too, but like the length of the game leaked beforehand with the trophies / achievements, I think, and so it was known like it was 6 sequences, and everyone was like, "Wow, that's that's pretty short." Like, and a lot of people were worried about it. But when I played through the final game, I thought, even though you guys ended up cutting a lot of stuff, I thought it worked really well. I felt the length suited it pretty well. Everything was really focused, and maybe it was because I just came from Unity, where it's like, let's jam 10 different plot threads in this story and like just like leave them all just wherever it goes. Like it's really nice to just have one solid like narrative that wasn't too crazy. And I don't know. I felt like it ended up working really well.
Well, it was shorter for sure. The thing is, I do think when you take the entire game, though, there are so many things to do outside of the main path. That I do feel that it's like the main path is shorter, but if you want to do like side missions and you want to like explore the different things we offer in the game, I do think there's like a lot of hours. I think it's pretty similar to Black Flag in terms of the time that you actually can spend in the game, because the world is huge. The world is huge.
It feels bigger than Black Flag to me. Like I've been playing through the site because I just blew through the story like as quickly as I could.
Okay.
And when I did Rogue, because partly so I could get started on like podcast stuff, and also so that I wouldn't get spoiled, because like the longer I take,
of course.
Whatever. But there was also a feel like, oh, I just did this in Black Flag. Why do I have to go take all these forts again? Like, I feel like I kind of just like I was like, I just did this. I already upgraded my ship because like the UI is so similar too. Like it had this feeling kind of deja vu. But then like I've been coming back to it on my live streams. I live stream Assassin's Creed games every Saturday, and so like a lot of times I've just been using those to clean up like side stuff on Rogue and Unity, and I am just like the amount of stuff in Rogue is just mind-boggling to me, like all the different locations. And there was even an article that you might have seen recently on Kotaku from Stephen Totilo, who's like a big fan of the series and everything, talking about like all these different like hideaways like in Rogue that you can go to, and just like how vast it is. Oh yeah, it's a big game. It's a little deceiving at first.
No, exactly. I mean, because the main story is a bit shorter, you feel that you don't have the same amount of content, but then the world is absolutely huge. I think you're right. I do think it's bigger than Black Flag. I guess Black Flag is maybe more balanced this way. There's you get more of the main path when you play Black Flag. But I know like the different teams working on like different parts of the world like really worked hard, and they're really proud of what they did, and I can't believe that they actually managed to provide this much. I mean, they really created environments that are just phenomenal. I mean, sometimes you just move through the world and you see these vistas, especially in the north, where it's sort of you don't even have to go there. Like there's no reason why you would just sail around or visit an island. But when you do, you realize that some of these places are just wonderful.
Okay, we're gonna move on to a question that I am so excited to ask from It's Up Dog. He asks, where did the ever hilarious "I make my own luck" come from?
This is something we wrote really early in the story, just as a sort of a comeback. I think it was a reply from Liam's. From one of Liam's line. It was something I think I wrote when we were still working on like just random scenes that we thought would maybe make it into the final game, but that we needed to do the casting. And then at some point we decided to use it again. And then again and again and again.
It snowballed from there.
But actually, it was just a few times that you were supposed to hear it during the main path. Okay. But then when we got feedback, like it wasn't clear enough that this was like something that he said like all the time. So we sort of added more. Maybe we added too much. It's hard to tell. We probably did, but it is what it is now. So
yeah. I've always not since the wonderful "Where is Charles Lee" have the fans gotten such a great thing to riff off of from the games, I think. And I've always been kind of curious because I never got a chance to ask Corey like I've always kind of wanted to ask Corey like are you seeing the writing like where, and then he goes, "Where is Charles Lee?" And then be like, wait a minute, didn't I already, isn't this quite, no, I'm gonna push through and ask where Charles Lee is. Like it's not like if he, and so I'm curious like if you
well, I can't answer for Corey, but for
right.
Charles Lee, this was also like his mission, right? Like this was let's remind the player, where is Charles Lee? This is what I need to do. For Shay was a bit different. It was more like a character thing. And then at some point we talked like talking with Susie, we imagine like the different ways we could use that. At first I think we only had it 3 or 4 times. But then we had to do it a couple more times, and then I think it's sort of, again, like, if you like it, it's fine. It might be a little quirky, but again, it's always hard to balance that out. I don't know what to say.
Well, I think it's hilarious. I think it's a gift to the community is how I see it. I'm just curious if you guys, like, when you're sitting down writing this, if you're thinking, oh, the fans are going to have so much fun with this. Like, if you realize that you're going to spawn a bunch of, like, I verb my own noun type parodies. Or is it only when it comes out you're like, oh, I should have seen this coming?
No. Of course you see it coming, because when the thing is, I'm a big fan of... like when I develop a character, I like to work on his voice, and just make sure that each voice is different and is either because they're quirky like Gist, or that they have like saying like that, or maybe it's a turn of phrase that they tend to use or something. Like I try to make each character unique, and we're like working on a script. Like you always go back through everything from the beginning, and you try to like sort of put some of the pieces together from early on to do some foreshadowing and for different narrative reasons actually. But I always like when there's like at least one or two callbacks from earlier lines. Something, and again, this was
one or
like
2 or 10
or 10, yeah. But for this one in particular, like this become like this really became like a saying, like it's. So yeah, of course.
Okay,
but of
great.
course, we saw it coming. Like we knew.
Okay.
Like we knew, like either the fans would like it or they would hate it. But it was like, you know what, we did it. We're there's nothing we can do now. It's in the game. So
Awesome.
We'll have to live with that for the rest of
Great.
our lives.
Well, like I said, I see it as a gift to the community. So I
You're very nice for saying that.
I have no issues with it. All right, so let's shift a little bit, kind of back to story points. And I don't know, maybe I didn't make this clear earlier, but I love the story of Rogue. I thought it was great. And I actually thought it was pretty well handled, even with the transition from Shay from Assassin to Templar. I actually kind of love the idea that it was... I kind of see like both Shay and Achilles being just really stubborn and almost a little arrogant in a lot of ways, and like it was really just that from they couldn't calm themselves down, and it kind of led to this huge rift that ended up wiping out. And of course Achilles also kind of suffering from the loss of his wife and child, of course. But I thought it was actually handled really well and tied into AC3 well. But like I thought the story was great, except for the Precursor Box. And so I was hoping to spend some time like on the Precursor Box, and the issues I have with it are numerous, but we can just start with like a simple question here from I think it's Awais Karim. Just is the box that we see in Chronicles China, which Xiaojun got from Ezio, the same one we see in Rogue?
Probably not.
Probably not. Interesting. Because okay, so yeah, we can kind of mark the different boxes, right? We have the Embers / Chronicles China box.
Yes.
There's a box in Freedom Cry that looks similar as well. There is Rogue. God, am I missing any? I think that might be.
You're missing one, I think. There's the box in is it the Fall, I think.
Oh my God, is there a box in the Fall?
There's a ball in there's a box in the Fall, I think that.
See, this is the problem with it being such a generic artifact, is that you start looking at all the boxes in the series.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I don't know.
I don't remember a box in the Fall, but I'll read it again just to make sure. I can tell you that the idea was that the box from Freedom Cry that Adewale gets in Freedom Cry and leaves in the Caribbean is the same box. Same box as we see in Rogue. This is the box that Mikadal lost during the earthquake, or in the aftermath of the earthquake, I should say. During which time the Templars sort of got their hands on it. So this is really it's the same box. Again, the idea that we wanted to show. We wanted to spend time in Haiti with these people. We didn't, so maybe it would have been clearer this way. But when you meet Adewale, he actually says that they lost this artifact. So it is the same box. The Freedom Cry and the Rogue box are the same. As for the Chronicles of China, this I'm not at liberty to say. It's probably, I would say it's probably different. It's probably another one.
Okay.
Because they're, again, like we've established that the precursors have different versions of their artifacts. They have different copies. We know that there are many apples.
And smaller apple in Dead Kings. Because something a lot of fans have noticed too, well, not a lot, but some really eagle-eyed fans have noticed, is that the box seems to changed like shape and design a little bit, like between all these games, and so that wasn't really clear if that was just an oversight or. And I'd have to look back and see if it lines up with, the Freedom Cry / Rogue box always being consistently different from the Xiao Jun box or not or whatever. But it's like, yeah, like people notice these things, but it seems like there was just a lot of box action in the last year. It seemed like it was reasonable to assume that this was the only one, unless there was evidence to the contrary. And I don't know. Okay, all right. Well,
it's not the only box, that's for sure. There are many.
Okay.
And hopefully we will explain this actually soon. There's we had several ideas on how to use the box or boxes and how to like reveal what they would do, where they were, also in present day. Present day, as you know, it's another thing because we spend less time in present day than we used to, especially in the games. But I mentioned before there were like different AC titles coming up, especially in 2016. We're going to see hopefully a lot of new things. So I'm crossing my fingers that we're gonna give a little more explanation about this box.
Okay, all right, that's good to hear, because like if the rogue box was the Ezio box, then I have like a lot of issues where he's like, Xiaojun, take this box, and when you need it, make sure you have it hit by lightning, and like, but I'm not gonna tell you that. And I was just like, what are they doing to Embers? But okay, so actually, I would like to spend a little more time talking about the Chronicles China box, since I guess you had a little bit of hand in the story of Chronicles China. Is that correct, with your position on the brand team, as we mentioned earlier, and keeping things canon, right?
Yeah, of course.
Is that right? Say so. In Chronicles China, one of my biggest issues with the Precursor box is that if you read through the scrolls or whatever, like if you collect the scrolls and you read through them, it says, and then Xiaojun, I'm going to paraphrase here, but then Xiaojun opened the box and it was empty. It had simply been a metaphor from Ezio that like you have all the, like, it's Kung Fu Panda-esque, like, the real power lies within you, Xiaojun. And I'm like, okay, number one, I have issues with this because Ezio's never been that fucking cryptic and metaphoric. He's very like, he's Ezio. He's not Subject 16. But then at the same time, like, Xiaojun, like, and all these other people are like, this box isn't complete, like. And even Xiaojun at the end is like, I'll never know what the box was for, in like her perfect like posh British accent, like, I never knew what the box really did, and like all this stuff. And it's like, see that's what made me think it was the same box too, because it's like, oh yeah, it needs lightning, like that's what it needs. It needs lightning and a first Civ like. Well, it needs
the lightning was to replace first Civ battery, if you will. Like it needed a power source, that's for sure.
Right.
And the document, and this is something maybe the fans didn't pick up. Like if I take a step back and I come back to Rogue, the box is used like to decipher a script, and this is something that maybe I shouldn't reveal it because maybe the fans will pick up on it at some point. But the manuscript that Achilles had, this was something that we've introduced. We've introduced like pages of this in Black Flag. We had things on this in, I think, Initiates as well. We do mention it. Was it in the chain or I can't remember. It's been so long. But anyway, like there was a reason why we wanted to use these elements, is because they existed. They were like part of the lore. Regarding the Chronicles China, this is not something I can answer, unfortunately. Uh,
Sorry, answer meaning the question being, what does that box do, and what's
and
missing
why
from it,
and
or
why
whatever?
the thing is, why was it empty, and why was a Xiaoyong like, so I guess disappointed at the end of that of that
I well,
like there's like, can we not talk about Chronicles China?
okay, all right.
Like I really wish I could answer this, but I can't. Like,
Oh, okay. Do you have a way to? Let me just ask this then. We'll wrap up Chronicle Shine. Is there a way to? So to me, the idea that she could interpret this box as two different things, like that it's empty, but also that it's missing something. Like those ideas feel mutually exclusive to me. Like I'm having real trouble imagining how someone thinks it's simultaneously empty as a metaphor, but also has a purpose with something in there. Do you have like a way to square that doesn't make me like upset with the story of Chronicles China? And I mean, both of these, by the way, both of these answers make absolutely no sense coming from Ezio, by the way. But like, disregarding that, like,
you mean the fact that the box is incomplete and the fact that she thinks it's empty? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like how does she think both of these things? Because it seems to me you would interpret. If you saw that the box had a purpose but was missing something to make it work, I don't think you would then be like, oh, but it's empty because it's a metaphor from Ezio. You know what I mean? Because that implies that there's nothing else that the box has, but there is.
Yeah,
You know
I agree.
what I mean?
And it would have, to me, it would have.
Like, was that kind of
it would have given her a reason to like find the box purpose and maybe find the missing piece.
Yeah, right. Like if she thinks it's empty as a metaphor, then she would probably just toss the box, right? But if she thinks it has a purpose, then I don't understand how she would think it's a metaphor, because she would think, oh, Ezio gave this to me because it has great power of unspecified or whatever. It does something. Like, so was this just like a mistake in the scroll? Was it just a mistake that the scroll said, oh, it was a metaphor? Because like everything else seems to point, like all the dialogue and the voice acting seems to point towards, and certainly the fact that the MacGuffin moves from Chronicles China to future games at the end of it, like it seems to indicate that it actually has a purpose. So was it just like a mistake in the scrolls then, or?
I don't know if it was a mistake or if it was like the writer who was actually trying to, I guess, develop sort of Xiaoyung's character by having her, I guess, think that this was a metaphor. I can't really answer it because I didn't write that.
Okay.
So
I'm just gonna pretend that scroll is non-canon then.
what I can tell you though is that I'm hoping that we can, I guess, further explain this down the line.
Okay.
And make things really clear. But yeah, this I know that it's a bit confusing when you read the scrolls, and I totally get it.
Okay.
But I can't comment more on this.
Okay, that's fine.
I would really like to, but I can't.
All right, so I'm just gonna ignore the metaphor aspect and just go with the other part. So continuing on the theme of things you can't talk about the box, we have a question from Nelson Ivan 24. Any hint about where is the Precursor Box right now, with 4 question marks?
Right now, I'm guessing meaning present day.
Oh yeah.
I'm guessing. I hope this is the question. Yes, actually, you're gonna learn very soon where is the Precursor Box in present day. This is all I can say.
That's a decent hint, though. I like that. And I guess there's more than one, too. I'm assuming. Okay, all right.
You'll learn. Okay,
we'll leave it at that.
Rephrase that. You will learn where one of the Precursor Boxes is.
Okay. Awesome. Great. All right, thanks. We'll leave the boxes alone now. It was driving me a little bit crazy before we had this talk. Now I understand things a little better.
It's also
things in perspective
for the box too. It's also it's also like something we really wanted to explain a little more, but we just couldn't. So this is why I'm hoping that also with the present day aspect, but I was mentioning the different titles coming up, and at some point I'm hoping that during the course of these titles you will learn more about the box. So
okay. Yeah, actually, so sorry, I just remembered really quickly. I do have one more tiny question about the box.
I knew it.
Yes, sneak it in here. I've been wondering actually what the thought process is for making the box at the end of Embers this thing in Chronicles China, where it seems to me that it probably could have easily been just a new Fursive artifact. Because a lot of these issues come from me trying to reconcile, this short film that was made in 2011 with how it's now being used, and it doesn't line up quite correctly. So it almost seems like it might have been easier just to leave the box as it is in Embers and just have a new artifact. And I was wondering how the decision came about to do the box instead of that.
I think the easy answer is because the box already existed. And in terms of the franchise, like we try not to create too many of these artifacts because it's already confusing, right? Because you mentioned the box, you're frustrated about this one artifact, but there are so many that we mentioned but that we never really explained, or we never like truly resolved some of these like the stories like behind these artifacts and what they are, what they're doing now and where they are.
But I don't think anybody thought the box in Embers was an artifact. Like, I don't think that ever came into like anybody's thoughts now. And actually, I also think it's funny that you say we try to confuse the fans by creating too many of these, when a lot of this box confusion came about because you guys created 2 of them, apparently, at least, right? And so I'm just like kind of scratching my head right now, like. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it wasn't.
What I was saying is that, like, there could be multiple box, like multiple apples, but if it's clear like what the box does, at least you have one art. Like, it's like the apple. Like, people know what the apple does because we actually saw it in the games.
Yes.
So even if like that there are maybe some more out there that you could be looking for, it's still the same artifact. You know what I mean? Like, it's a different one, but it has the same properties. Like, we don't want to, like, we have to be careful about not having too much of this precursor technology in the game.
So, I guess it's hard for me to, like, if it had been clear that the box in Embers was a first Civ artifact, then I would be like, they'll just reuse that one and not introduce like another one. But everybody just thought it was a box. Like, it just looked like a box. There was no indication it was like anything special. And so I guess the thing you get out of reusing the box is that you don't have to explain why Xiaojun had it or where she got it from. Like, you at least
she got
get
it from
that
Ezio.
part away.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. That's what I mean. You don't. I guess as opposed to creating a new artifact that would serve the same purpose. I guess that's what reusing the box gets you, is you don't have to explain that part. I guess I just have trouble. Okay, we don't need to talk about this anymore. Right? We're not grilling you on the boxes stuff. But it's
just gonna note down. Go back to Embers and add some precursor artifact effects to box.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll go ahead and edit the revelations. Ezio will remove a precursor box from Altair's crypt. Okay. Done. It's fixed.
Oh,
it was the plan all along.
It was exactly.
It's the George Lucas edition, and then like a bunch of like CGI characters were roaming around in Ezio's Tuscan villa. Like,
this is the part where Amar would say, like, "No, but we like to play with your minds. This is all part of the plan."
Well, we sort of do. That's sort of the point too. I mean, there's
but okay, yeah.
Loomer's not buying it.
I think you can play with people's minds in a fair way and then in a poor way, and I feel like I think reusing the box has brought on more problems than solutions to narrative things. Like, because then, I don't know, because the fact that it's an artifact makes Ezio's words to Xiao Jun really weird. Like, when he's just like, you, like, take this and when the time is right, like, you'll use it. But maybe we'll see. Maybe it'll make perfect sense when we follow the path of the box. Or maybe it's just like, whatever, that was a short film that not everybody saw and we're just going to ignore what Ezio said it in. Like, maybe that's the answer.
No, but I don't understand what you're saying. If Ezio gives her a box and says,
Yes.
you know, when the time is right, you're going to use it.
Yeah, or if you're in trouble.
Yeah, what does it matter if it's an artifact or not? I mean, it makes sense that it would be an artifact.
I guess that depends on the implementation of it, but it seems very clear that Xiao Jun needed to use it because she opened it, and she couldn't figure out how to use it. Ezio's not a cryptic guy, and like, it seems like Ezio kind of fucked up.
So I can't promise you anything, but like I said, hopefully in the coming year you'll have the answer to that, and it will clear everything up, and you will be happy with the result.
Excellent. I will look forward to it.
Next question from Katie's videos. It's from Awais Karim, who asks, are there any Easter eggs that you know of that the fans might have missed while playing Rogue?
I think the fans, from what I saw, I think they pretty much found everything, I think. Because I remember, this was a while back, but I remember like reading a list of what had been found, and no, I don't think so.
There's none left.
I don't think so.
Good. It's a pretty rabid.
This is more like some of the people from Sofia would be better able to answer that question. They would know. They would know for sure.
Yeah, like an Easter egg, like some programmer made their name out of bushes in the corner of the world or something.
Exactly. Something like that. Like there's
probably not a whole lot of like narrative things that fans haven't already uncovered, I guess.
On the narrative standpoint, like they found everything. That's for sure.
Cool. All right, so next question. This is I'm paraphrasing because two people asked this, both Combat Bridget, Serge, and Katie's videos. When is Shay's birthday? We have a year, but we don't have a date.
Do you need a date?
So I think this is just one of those things that's like, fans just want to know it, and also, sometimes people do stuff to celebrate assassins' birthdays, and in this case, an assassin / Templar. And I think if it's just a matter of you guys need to pick a day, it would be awesome, like if we could just get that in the wiki, and then have it be canon. And
honestly, I thought we did have a date. I guess we don't if people are asking for it. So
yeah, everything I've seen indicates that we only have the year.
So I'm guessing it's missing from the database.
So maybe that's something you get back to us on, and we can
absolutely
announce. That would be awesome.
Absolutely.
Because then it's like, hey, it's Shay's birthday. Let's all celebrate. Shay, and I'm sure there'll be lots of he makes his own cake jokes and stuff, but like, it'll be good fun.
I just want to make sure, because the thing is, I could give you a date right now, but I just want to make sure that it's not somewhere and it will be revealed, in an Wikipedia or
you're
something.
Gonna contradict something later on.
No, exactly. So this is why I can't answer right now, because like I said, like we're working on different things. So maybe we have a date already. I'd have to double check.
Okay, great.
But I would love to celebrate Shay's birthday with you guys.
Awesome. Great.
Whenever.
All right, to be continued. Okay, great. We'll get through some of these last questions pretty quickly. Gabe, if you want to take the next one.
Oh yes. Okay. So let's see. The next question. Oh yeah, there's three like rapid fire.
Yeah,
From
rapid
Arthur.
fire.
From Arthur 4350, who asks, why is Shay able to kill civilian NPCs without causing desynchronization? If Shay can kill civilians as per the Animus without causing desync, isn't he hypocritical for accusing the assassins for not caring about innocent lives?
Oh God.
See, this is probably the other only narrative point that really bothered me, because Shay, more than anyone else, is like about innocent lives. And then like I almost feel like you can make this video of like, you know, Shay going, "You made me slaughter innocents," like as he's doing a montage of like mowing down civilians like in New York or something without
Yeah.
getting desynced.
There's no good answer to that question, because the answer is he shouldn't have been able to. Like the Animus would have. This is not like it's an Animus glitch. This is.
I'm
what
sort
it
of
is.
I'm sort of surprised that people tried to begin with, right? Like, because I didn't. I'm like, oh, could you? Like, I would imagine you'd get desynced, because I don't even try to do it. Because
Well, I remember it was at least mentioned before the game came out. I don't know how it came up, but this was known before the game came out.
Yeah.
Like either in an interview or something. And
Yeah,
I
I think it was. I think it was when they were touring. I think at some point they were talking about the differences in terms of gameplay, and I know this was one of them. This was something we didn't want. Like we wanted it to be like the standard thing, because again, like an assassin, like Shay would not have killed an innocent. And this was the whole reason why he turned. Like he joined the Templars because he thought that he could protect the innocents, working with the Order, not with the assassins. So so I would call it an Animus glitch.
Okay. Yeah, it seems more like it was like some gameplay decision from someone who was like, "Assassin's good, Templar's bad, right?" And then like, okay, Templar kill civilian. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm simplifying this again, like we were talking about before, but that's like how it comes across to me. Totally narratively dissonant with like Shay's character, especially.
Of course, it doesn't work. It doesn't work with Shay, but the thing is, I know there's been a lot of discussion too about like people being frustrated because of they would desync all the time. The thing is, for me, it's not a problem, because you just run around killing civilians, because that's not part of the lore, and there's plenty of people to slaughter when you play in the game.
You want to kill people.
There's no reason to target innocents. Like if you want to fight, like there are different ways to play the game. But if you want to just bash in and fight, you can always do it. And there's always going to be soldiers around and enemies to fight. So there's no point of doing it. Unfortunately, it is in the game. But it's for me. It's like I guess it's not a huge thing. Maybe because the game has been out for a while, and I sort of got used to the idea, and I don't really think about it, because like Gabe, like I it's not something I do like when I play a game anyway. This is not like the way I play games, but I understand that for some people it might be frustrating, and I know like there's been some discussion about that, and maybe like this design decision came maybe because of that.
Okay. Well, I look forward to revisiting this question with Jacob and Evie and their carriage runs in 3 months or so. With Jeffrey.
My own headcanon will be that was a Violet DaCosta edit to the Helix. It's like, you can kill whoever you want now.
She's like, this game's really boring if you don't kill people, so we're just going to hack
knock
this up.
yourself out, numbskull. Kill it.
Yeah, knock yourself out, numbskull.
So Arthur has more questions. How did Abstergo get a hold of Shay's DNA? Did they find a descendant like Desmond, or did they get it by another fashion?
All right, this question goes on for a while. Yeah. How did Abstergo get hold of Shay's DNA? Do you know? Was this ever explained or?
No, it was not explained. We do have a reason, and again, this is something that hopefully we're going to reveal and explore very soon.
Oh, cool.
Because this is something we originally we thought about actually showing it in the game, but then it didn't happen. So So it is one of the ideas that we might sneak in somewhere in the near future.
Awesome. Yeah, so these questions are going to bleed a little bit into the modern day, just as a heads up.
Yeah. So the next one, should I just skip to the number 4 here from Arthur?
Yes.
Okay. Was the stuff about Connor's wife a joke at fans who want a new game or a tease at a future installment where we see Connor and Shay duel?
Yeah. So real quick for the podcast listeners, as a reminder, the stuff about Connor's wife was like a blurb about how like, whoa, and don't get me started on his wife, or like something like that, like in the Abstergo documents. I believe that was the extent of it in Rogue. But also in the Abstergo handbook, there's like the sad, lonely death of Rodon Hagedon, where it talks about how it has a picture of Connor holding a lock of his blonde hair from his wife, and the blurb is like Connor's wife and kids leave him and he's really sad now. Like paraphrasing. And so, yes, anyway, Richard.
No, there are no plans to have a game centered on Connor's wife, if that's the question.
Well, okay, so here's a slightly rephrased part of that question that I think he's getting at. So what is I don't know who wrote these, but what are they going for? Is this supposed to be like teasing the fans, or is it like as in like, hey, you guys want more info about Connor? Well, he's all sad and low now. Like he's super sad. Because honestly, that's how it kind of feels.
So I will say this, and this is because I haven't ever really been able to get Corey to talk much about this subject, but my understanding from what he has said is that people keep asking to know more about Connor's life, but it doesn't get any better for him, right? Like he doesn't go on to have like this really fantastic, awesome life. It's a very sad kind of thing that people are not going to be happy about if they get the full story. It's not going to be like he suddenly has like a happy ending or anything. I don't know that he's ever gone into much detail. So I think that the idea is that teasing out little bits of it, saying like hinting at that, but not actually saying it. It's not so much playing with the fans, but it's just that I don't know if we want to or have the have enough of the story laid out to where we can go into it, really. Right?
Okay. I guess it's... I don't think the fans necessarily need Connor to have a happy life, although I know a lot of people do want that. But I guess it's more like a question of tone. Like in the way both of these things are presented, they're very like...
tongue-in-cheek. They're very tongue-in-cheek. They're like
almost
twisting the knife, right? Like...
it's kind of it's like it almost feels like they're like intentionally twisting a knife for fans of Connor, and I don't think it's like a wise thing to do to your fan base. It just feels like a little tone deaf, I think, is the way I would describe the way that they're presented. And I understand that it's like from Abstergo's perspective, but this is what I said like in the podcast. I forget which one, probably the one with Dan Janot. Like, you have to always like the fans are always aware that these things aren't written in a vacuum, right? It's not just like, oh, well, that's how it really happened. Like, it's like you got to understand how fans are going to interpret this when you put it out. And so, I don't know. All right. I don't need to dwell on this anymore. It's just, I guess you guys gave a decent glimpse at what the purpose was. That's interesting.
I think though maybe sometimes we're trying to read too much into things like that. Like, if a line is delivered in character, like it's just that character's opinion. It's not necessarily you can't hold this to be the absolute truth about something. So,
but it's when you put it in perspective of fans have been asking since 2012, and then it's like I guess it's like a blind spot maybe, or I don't know.
I understand.
Yeah. Okay, we can move on from this.
The next question from Renee Harshbarger is there were a few lines of drunken Shay that did not make it into the game as far as I can tell. Was there going to be a scene in the game that they were going to be used or a feature that got cut? I don't know what this is about. What
I'm guessing, I haven't heard this either, but I'm guessing this is like how people, dig through the game files and then they find all these lines, like Connor's, monologue at the end of AC3 that got cut for whatever reason. Like there's some lines for, Clay, and then Darby even threw in John from IT like a special Easter egg for the people that do this.
Yes.
I bet you're gonna throw this on the internet and feel all like special, huh? Like
I know.
Good job for you.
I know for Rogue we also had something like you could unlock like a sort of a silly voice for Shay. So he was.
I love that. That's a cheat. Where he talks in puns,
yeah, you're right.
And he's like, I can see my house from here. Let me pull you into the conversation.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe this comes from that as well. At some point we thought about having a beat in the story where Shay would it was like right after he betrayed the Brotherhood while he was being nursed back into health, to health in New York. We wanted to have like maybe have him live a couple of years where he wouldn't be he wouldn't start working with the Templars right away, and the original vision I had for this is that like he would be like this, just totally destroyed. Like he would probably be drunk all the time, getting into brawls and not really just being like completely unable to accept what just happened to him. And the fact that he had to turn his back, like he was forced to turn his back on Achilles. And if this would not have been a video game, we could have had this beat in the story, but we couldn't make it interesting in terms of gameplay and in terms of missions. So it sort of was killed pretty early in the process. But I'm not sure exactly where these lines come from. If it's not from that cheat, then it might just have been something like from the AI that we like, just in case that we need reactions like that. But no, there was no, aside from this that actually never made it because we never wrote a script for that. It was just one of these ideas that we had originally.
I wish I knew what the lines were because that might help illuminate like what they were going to be used for.
Yeah.
So maybe fans can figure it out based on what the lines are. I haven't heard them, unfortunately. So
no, me neither.
Okay, cool. All right, we'll move on to the next question. Wow, this one's from Gabe Newell. Lucky you. I'm sure this is 100% legit. Was there any pressure working on Rogue, knowing most of the publicity was going to Unity, to make the game stand out more?
You know what? Not really, because when you work on the game, you're so focused on what you have to do, and everyone is so dedicated and obsessed almost, because we're just working really hard to make the best product that we can. Yeah. Honestly, like marketing, like the way the game would sell, or how it would be marketed, it's not something we thought about until the very end, until we were done, pretty much. So, and honestly, I sort of like working on these different projects that are, because I've been involved in AAA titles as well. But working on and this is a AAA game, but it was coming up at the same time as Unity. So it was sort of different because Unity was the next big thing. It was the new generation of consoles and everything. To me, it's actually, it was no pressure at all, and it was even like it gave us a chance to tell a Templar story that we might not have been able to tell if we weren't like the second title coming up during that year. Mm-hmm. So no, I can't like. Again, like we get so involved in the process, and we're so busy, like working and making sure everything fits together, that it's not something that maybe some writers are more nervous about that, and it's not something I think about when I work on a title.
I think it actually worked out pretty well in the end too, because after the two games came out and Unity, had a bunch of problems that were well covered, it actually led to a lot of articles being written like, hey, everyone go check out Rogue. It's kind of flown under the radar, but it's really good. And so
yeah,
I think it kind of worked out.
This was kind of unfortunate because it was like, it wasn't a good way of getting publicity.
Well, yeah, silver lining, but yes.
but I do get it. I mean when Unity came out, unfortunately it was bugged, so it took a while And I think this is what hurt Unity most. If the game had been just a little more polished, as the team had hoped, I guess it would have been received differently. But that's another story.
Yeah, we could talk forever about that.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so we have a question from the name is in Cyrillic, but I noticed that in the URL it says Barlog08, so I'll go with that.
That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know how that got in there. But go ahead.
So the question is Shay, and I'll go ahead and put a specific spoiler tag because this does spoil the end of both.
Unity Rogue tie-in spoilers.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Shay killed Charles Dorian and completed his main mission in 1776, way before Connor killed all the Templars in the colonies. So why didn't Shay return to the colonies to help Haytham and the others? Did Haytham give Shay another mission?
Yeah, Shay's mission was to retrieve these artifacts, and the thing is, like specifically, it was to retrieve this, and he did that by killing Arnold's father. But again, we mentioned that there were several artifacts and probably several manuscripts.
Okay.
So yes, Shay was on another mission, and hopefully, again, I wouldn't say in the months to come, but we're going to explore more of Shay's story. Hopefully, I'm crossing my fingers because it's I really like what we did with Ezio, because he was in 3 games and we had, he was developed, in novel forms as well. Like
and Embers.
In Embers, like we got to know pretty much all of his life, and this is why I think he's such an amazing character, and fans just love him because he was a great character from the get go when you first meet him in AC2. But he became sort of this legend because he was in 3 games, in Ambers, as you mentioned. Like, so we got to know him very well. I wish we could have done that with some of the other characters as well. This is why I was happy to use Haytham again in Rogue, and hopefully down the line, like with the different titles coming up, we will be able to use maybe some of these characters again.
Great. I guess there's also kind of a practical side to this answer, which is similar to what we were saying earlier, which is that Shay couldn't have come back and helped Haytham in AC3 because Shay wasn't created until after AC3 was released, right? Like, which ties in with the story too, but like the practical answer is also, well, that's impossible.
No, exactly.
I guess,
exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Okay, cool. We're gonna do some rapid fire, like wrap-up questions here. One from James Tubbins: could you see a Templar sequel happening in the future? Which I'm interpreting to mean just another Templar protagonist game, I guess.
Well, I can totally see it. There's no. I mean, we had a lot of fun with the first one. I know. The fans have been, curious about a Templar story. I'm pretty sure we could actually tell more. In terms of if it's gonna happen in a game, I'm not sure. But it is you are going to see. We're going to develop the Templars in different titles that will start to come out in 2016. So for sure, there's going to be more Templar stories. We're going to see more of the organization. We're going to delve into both present day and the past. Whether this will eventually be a video game, I'm not sure. But we will see more Templar stories, that's for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how little of the modern day Templars we still actually get a glimpse of, like characters like Alan Rickon and others. So I'm excited to hear that the Templar stuff will be developed more in the modern day too, because that kind of fell off a little bit. Kind of like that used to be kind of the role of the multiplayer, and then that never.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm excited for that. It's good to hear. Okay, great. Real quick question from Katie R. And you have kind of answered this and probably can't talk too much, but how do you see Shay's later life unfolding?
In what? Sorry.
How do you see Shay's later life unfolding? Wait and see, I guess, right? Or
Yeah.
can't talk about anything.
Yeah.
All right.
Unfortunately, I can't really answer that question, but
Yeah.
for sure, I'm hoping, crossing my fingers, that at some point we're gonna see more of him.
All right, so we'll wrap up with these two questions I think are good to land on. This one's from Hellcutter399, who asks, what is your favorite moment in Assassin's Creed history?
In Assassin's Creed history, oh my god. Oh, that's tough. There are so many good moments. I think in terms of how things shaped, I'm a huge fan of the events that were presented in the fall, in the present day with Daniel Cross. The fact, again, like, I'm spoiling the story if you haven't read it. Skip ahead. But in the fall, there's the fall ends with Daniel Cross killing the modern day Mentor and returning to Abstergo. I remember when I was working on I think it was Revelations at the time. I was working on like Templar secrets that we could the fans could unlock in the game, and I was like, oh, this is a huge thing. Like, this is a huge moment. Like, when he comes back, with this knowledge of all the assassin cells and all different farms that they have all over the world. And so I created a thing, like, just to explain, like, how would things move from, and this was in 2000s, in the universe, not in real life. So basically, we created the Great Purge, which is basically, the Templars murdering all the assassins that they could find. And forcing the assassins to go into hiding. And since then, they've been pretty quiet and just reactive, trying to stop the Templars whenever they could. But they weren't. They were probably better organized, and more numerous before that. So I think when you look at I love how that moment sort of shaped things up for the present day. For me, this is one of the big moments. I'm not sure in terms of, because again, like, there are so many good moments in the franchise. I'm a huge fan of some of the games, of the comic books, of course, the novels. I'm really excited about the Underworld novel that will be released soon, which is sort of the companion novel for Syndicate, because you're going to learn more about a character that I really like.
It's Henry Green, right?
Henry Green, yes, exactly. Yes. So, this is too tough a question. Like, I couldn't say, like, one particular moment.
I think the Great Purge is a pretty good moment to pick, and I'm a fan of any Daniel Cross related, at least like from the novels, related story points for that.
Yeah. Of course, I'm talking about the graphic novels here, not the Daniel Cross from 2012 presented in AC3, because he was just insane at that time.
Yeah, it was too bad.
Although it's funny, because I do remember a reference from Rebecca to that aligns with both Daniel Cross and the Great Purge, where she's remembering. It's like, I don't think it's a part of dialogue but it's like when you can wander around inside the temple and talk to everyone else. If you talk to Rebecca after you first contacted Daniel Cross or come into contact with him in game, she talks about that period of time, right?
Yes,
it is
absolutely.
like very, very obviously like upset and has like a lot of feelings about it. And I think there's a reference to one of her friends being involved with Daniel Cross specifically, but that moment really solidified for me like what being an assassin at that time was like, and how they all have a memory of this kind of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is something we sort of we wanted to show that while I was working on Initiates. And this is something like we really wanted to show, like the state of the modern day assassins. Like we couldn't do it on initiates, like as we really wanted to. So again, I'm going to refer you to the nice titles coming up next year. if you're interested in learning more, of course.
Excellent. All right. And we'll wrap with this one last question from Assassin's Den 4. Can we expect other projects written by you in the future?
Yes. Is that simple enough?
I mean, that absolutely answers the question. But I would like to add, are there any hints or anything? And it's totally fine if you can't give any hints, but if you have any hints that won't get you in trouble, what you might be working on.
Well, we just wrapped up Syndicate, so I was involved in that as part of the team, because we were there were many of us actually working on that title. I was involved for several months.
And Underworld too, right? Like you were involved with that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, every time there's anything that has to do with publishing or that is not a AAA title, we will be. I'm always involved in at the very least narrative design. We sort of work with the writers on the blueprint, and we always try to make sure that whatever we develop with them not only fits within what we've already established, but sort of furthers and builds upon the Assassin's Creed lore. So yeah, of course, like if anything having to do with publishing, I'm involved. I'm not necessarily the lead writer for any of those things, but I am involved in terms of because we have to give the green light to everyone. We have to make sure again that it fits. Not only, and again, to me, it's more. It's not just like being in charge of making sure that things don't break what we've established, but it's how do we make this world even better using those different titles. I've worked on so many projects lately that you're going to see my name. I guess a bit of in different things, but I can't specify. Like I wrote this thing. Like I can't. There's nothing right now. But Syndicate was the last game I worked on.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, it amazes me how, AC was already such a huge brand and had so many like transmedia projects, and it's just getting even bigger now, especially with the big thing with the movie coming out in 2016, especially. And yeah, it's crazy. I didn't think it was going to get any bigger than it already had gotten, but it's crazy.
Yeah, with the movie, the comic books, the novels. I mean, it's really exciting too, because we sort of get to, because when you release a game every year or every 2 years, like there's only so much you can tell because you focus on the game. But Assassin's Creed, we have this modern day layer, which sort of is the glue that holds everything together. Mm-hmm. And in the games, we can't really explore that. We can explore a bit. We can explain what's happening during the events of the game, but we can't expand that. Very to explain like what happened. Like we can explain what happened in between the games, but we can only show you bits and pieces, like in video formats or audio files. So I guess having these different titles really means that we can make this into a, because for me this is like the expanded universe, but it's all canon, which is something we've all been working very hard to make sure.
Yeah, really tricky, but awesome when you get it right.
It's tricky
really
because
cool.
of all the different elements and all the different people working at the same time. So we have to make sure that everyone is aware, But again, that's also my role on the brand team. Like if they're developing something in a game, and I think it could be used, in a novel or in a comic book, like it's my role to make sure that this happens.
Awesome. Well, definitely looking forward to all the many projects coming out soon that will have your name on it. And
I'm pretty sure you're gonna like. I guess most of them.
Good. That's a good.
I'm hoping you're gonna love them all, but
yeah. Well, I'm overall very excited for Syndicate, and I think the novels themselves have been great. The graphic novels have all been great, and the movie looks like the talent involved and the costume and the setting all looks fantastic. So I'm actually, despite having a setback like in the release of Unity, I think was kind of like a low point for a lot of fans of the series for various reasons. I'm actually still really excited about all the things that are coming out, actually.
That's good to know.
Really cool. Great. Okay, we'll wrap it up there. So
hang
Richard,
on,
thank
actually.
you. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, I have one question that came in live over Twitter from a Twitter user named Tough Love Muse.
Okay.
His name Carrie Young. And then I wouldn't have brought it up except it was also seconded by Mel McCoubry. So Carrie asks if we can ask you how you balance your career writing with your career as a rock god.
That's right, because you do. Is it drums?
Yeah, I play drums. Yeah. We'll talk about that over coffee, Carrie. No, the thing is, I play drums in two bands. It's actually the same band, but we have two different projects. So that keeps me pretty busy. It's a very good sideline, but it's I play with amazing musicians. I've never been with a I'm fortunate to be playing with such a group of talented guys. I love them all very much. We've been together for over 5 years now. They're amazing. And to be honest, like the answer to that would be that this actually keeps me sane.
Right. So, Richard, thank you again so much for taking all this time to chat, and especially for working through some of the thornier issues that I and some of the fans have had, like with the boxes and stuff.
Yes, I know.
Helping clear that up. Really appreciate it. And yeah, we're definitely looking forward to all the projects that you've had your hands in.
Perfect. So I hope I'll talk to you guys soon.
Yeah, absolutely. So Richard is, I think, pretty much off the grid on social media, so you guys can't stalk him the way you do Darby. But as for me,
it's because this is because of my career as a rock god. This is why I'm off social media.
Too busy for autographs and everything. All right, so as for me, of course, my YouTube channel is the main source for everything I do. It's youtube.com/Loomer, Lomer. You can also find me on Twitter, Facebook, Loomer979. UBGabe is UBGabe on Twitter, Facebook, etc. pretty much. So yes, look forward to more podcasts soon, especially with the release of Syndicate coming out, and videos of my trip to Paris in a week, more Assassin's Creed pilgrimage videos, and yeah, thanks everyone. See you soon.